Thomas, a dedicated police officer, made a life-changing decision when he adopted 6 abandoned black girls who were unwanted. Despite facing countless challenges raising them as a single white man in a racially divided world, he always gave them love, stability, and a bright future. Before we begin Thomas's journey, let us know. What time are you listening to this, and where are you? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. In the small town of Greenbrook, Illinois, life moved at a slow and steady pace. The streets were lined with maple trees, their leaves turning vibrant shades of orange and gold as autumn approached. It was a place where everyone knew each other, where the scent of freshly baked pies wafted through the air, and where the sound of children playing echoed in the neighborhood. At the heart of this close-knit community was Thomas Miller, a seasoned police officer whose reputation for integrity and dedication was unmatched. Thomas had spent over 2 decades patrolling the streets of Greenbrook, his keen blue eyes ever watchful. He was a familiar face in town, known for his warm smile and approachable demeanor, despite the somber weight of his profession. Yet, beneath the surface, Thomas carried the heavy burden of loss. 10 years prior, his beloved wife, Sarah, had passed away, leaving a void in his heart that no amount of duty could fill. The couple had always dreamed of starting a family, and her absence haunted him daily. Each empty room in their home was a constant reminder of the family they had never been able to create. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold, Thomas was on patrol. The radio crackled to life with a call that would change his life forever. All units, we have a situation at 1425 Maple Street. Possible child abandonment. Proceed with caution. His heart raced as he flipped on the siren and sped towards the address. When he arrived, the sight that met him was heartbreaking. A dilapidated house stood silent, its paint peeling and windows shattered. As Thomas approached the front door, he heard faint cries emanating from within. He knocked gently, announcing himself as he pushed the door open. What he found inside would etch itself into his soul. 6 young girls, ranging from a toddler to a pre-teen, huddled together in the corner of the barren living room, their eyes wide with fear. "It's okay," Thomas said softly, crouching down to their level, his heart breaking for these children. "I'm here to help. Can you tell me what happened?" The oldest girl, Amira, stepped forward, her braided hair a stark contrast against the stark walls. "Our parents, they had an accident," she stammered, her voice trembling. "They didn't come home. We've been waiting." As he listened to her story, Thomas felt a surge of protective instinct. The girls had already suffered unimaginable loss, and the thought of them being placed into the foster care system sent a shiver down his spine. He knew the challenges they would face, the fear of separation, the uncertainty of new homes, and the struggle to adapt to a life without the love of their parents. Over the next few hours, social workers arrived to assess the situation. Thomas overheard snippets of their conversations. Difficult to place all 6 together, potential cultural challenges, the harsh realities of the foster care system. Each word deepened the knot in his stomach. Something stirred within him, an impulse he hadn't felt in years. Before he realized it, he found himself speaking up, his voice steady. What if I took them?" The room fell silent, shock reverberating through the air. The lead social worker, a compassionate woman named Linda, regarded him with a mixture of surprise and concern. "Officer Miller, I appreciate your concern, but taking in 6 children is a monumental responsibility, especially given the cultural differences and potential challenges." "I understand," Thomas replied, a fire igniting in his chest. "But I can't bear the thought of these girls being separated. They've already lost so much." As he stood there, watching the faces of the 6 frightened souls before him, he felt a resolve growing stronger. He could provide them with a home, a family. He could give them the love they desperately needed. As the discussions continued, Thomas knelt down to meet Amira's gaze, her eyes shimmering with hope and fear. "I want you to know that I'm going to do everything I can to keep you and your sisters together. Can you be brave for me?" Amira nodded, her expression solemn yet determined. Thomas felt a warmth spread through his chest, a flicker of hope igniting. Later that evening, after hours of paperwork and discussions, Thomas found himself standing outside the temporary foster home where the girls were placed for the night. His heart raced at the thought of what tomorrow would bring. With a deep breath, he approached the door and knocked. When Amira opened it, her face lit up with recognition. "Officer Miller," she exclaimed softly. "Hello, Amira," Thomas replied, kneeling down to her level. "How would you and your sisters like to come live with me and be a family?" The silence that followed seemed to stretch for eternity. Then suddenly, Amira's face broke into a radiant smile. She turned to her sisters, her excitement contagious, and in that moment, Thomas found himself engulfed in a tangle of small arms and joyful laughter. As he embraced these 6 precious girls, the walls around his heart began to crumble. In that instant, Thomas Miller felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but as he held his new daughters close, he knew they would face it together. In the small town of Greenbrook, an extraordinary journey of love, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of family was just beginning. The morning light spilled through the windows of Thomas Miller's modest home in Greenbrook, casting a warm glow on the walls that had felt so empty for years. Today, however, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The laughter and chatter of 6 young girls echoed through the rooms, replacing the silence that had lingered since Sarah's passing. Amira, Layla, Simone, Tiana, Zoe, and little Jasmine, his new daughters, were finally home. As Thomas entered the kitchen, he was greeted by a whirlwind of activity. Amira, the eldest at 12, took charge as she scrambled eggs with a confidence that belied her young age. Layla, with her lively spirit, was trying to keep the younger girls entertained. Simone, an aspiring artist, was already sketching in a corner, while Tiana and Zoe bickered playfully over who would pour the juice. Jasmine, the baby of the family, watched them with wide, curious eyes. "Good morning, everyone," Thomas called out, trying to suppress his smile. The sight of them together warmed his heart. "What's cooking?" "Breakfast, Dad," Amira replied with a grin, clearly proud of her role in the kitchen. "We're making your favorite," Thomas chuckled, feeling a swell of gratitude wash over him. These moments were a stark contrast to the loneliness he had felt for so long. As he sat at the table, the girls began to serve him, their laughter filling the room. It was a scene he had only dreamt of. A family gathered around the breakfast table. However, the transition wasn't without its challenges. As the days turned into weeks, Thomas found himself navigating the complexities of parenting 6 girls from different backgrounds. Each child had her own personality, needs, and quirks, and understanding them was no small feat. One afternoon, after a chaotic morning that had seen breakfast spilled on the floor and arguments over toys, Thomas decided it was time to establish some routines. He gathered the girls in the living room, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Okay, everyone," he began, adopting a firm but kind tone. "We're going to create a family schedule. This way, we can all help each other out and make things run a bit smoother." The girls looked at him with varying degrees of interest. Amira nodded, already thinking ahead, while Tiana rolled her eyes, clearly unimpressed. "Do we have to?" she muttered, crossing her arms. "It sounds boring." Thomas took a deep breath, recalling the challenges of establishing authority while trying to be a loving father. "I know it might not sound fun, but routines help us know what to expect. Plus, we can add some fun activities too, like family movie nights and game days." "Game days?" Zoe perked up, her competitive spirit shining through. "I'm in." Encouraged by their enthusiasm, Thomas pressed on. They spent the afternoon brainstorming ideas, and before long, they had crafted a schedule that included chores, study time, and family fun. As the weeks passed, the girls adjusted to their new lives, and so did Thomas. He found joy in the little moments, teaching them to ride bikes, helping with homework, and even learning to braid hair, which had initially seemed like an insurmountable challenge. Jasmine often giggled at his attempts, her laughter a melody that filled his heart with warmth. Despite the joyful moments, not everything was smooth sailing. The whispers from the townsfolk began to seep into their lives. Thomas often noticed the sidelong glances and heard the murmurs as he drove the girls to school. Some neighbors expressed skepticism about his ability to raise 6 girls, especially as a white man adopting children of color. It weighed heavily on him, the specter of doubt creeping into his mind. One evening, as they gathered for dinner, the atmosphere was unusually tense. The girls had just come home from school, and Thomas sensed something was off. As they sat around the table, the silence felt heavy. "Is everything okay?" he asked gently, breaking the tension. Amira looked up, her expression serious. "Some kids at school, they've been saying things, Dad. They call us names. They say you only adopted us because you felt sorry for us." The words hung in the air, a palpable reminder of the societal barriers they faced. Thomas's heart sank as he listened to Amira's distress. "Those words can hurt," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But I want you to know that I adopted each of you because I love you. You are my family, and nothing will ever change that." Tiana chimed in, her voice steady. "But it feels like we don't belong, like we're always going to be the odd ones out." Thomas leaned forward, his heart aching for his daughters. "I understand. You might feel that way, but remember, family isn't defined by others. It's about love and support. No matter what anyone says, we are a family." As he spoke, the girls began to nod, the weight of their shared experience knitting them closer together. Thomas felt a renewed sense of purpose as he realized he needed to do more than just be a father. He had to be their advocate and ally in facing the world together. In the following weeks, Thomas made a conscious effort to embrace the cultural differences that enriched their family. He began attending community events, learning about the local history, and immersing himself in the girls' heritage. He reached out to Mother Henrietta, who had become a trusted friend and mentor, seeking her guidance on how to navigate the complexities of raising a multiracial family. One Saturday, he and the girls attended a cultural festival organized by the local Black community. The atmosphere was alive with music, food, and vibrant displays of art. As they walked through the festival, Thomas felt a sense of belonging begin to bloom within him. The girls beamed with pride as they connected with their heritage, and Thomas realized that he was not just their father, he was also a learner in this journey. Throughout the day, Thomas encouraged the girls to engage with the community, to share their stories, and to embrace who they were. He felt the initial tension dissipate as laughter filled the air, and the bond between him and his daughters deepened. By the end of the day, as they returned home, the car was filled with the sounds of joyful chatter. The festival had been a success, and for the first time, Thomas sensed a shift within the girls. They were beginning to embrace their identities and the love they shared as a family. As Thomas tucked the girls into bed that night, he reflected on the day's events. He felt a surge of hope for their future. The journey ahead would undoubtedly present challenges, but with each passing day, their family was becoming stronger, united by love, understanding, and resilience. As summer began to fade into autumn, the days in the Miller household were filled with the vibrant sounds of laughter, playful arguments, and the occasional chaos that came with raising 6 young girls. Thomas had settled into a routine, but the challenges of parenting continued to surface, each day bringing new opportunities for growth, connection, and, at times, conflict. One crisp afternoon, Thomas decided to take the girls to the local park. He packed a picnic lunch filled with their favorite foods, sandwiches, fruit, and cookies. As they piled into the car, the excitement was palpable. The park, with its sprawling green fields and towering trees, was a place where they could play freely and bond as a family. Upon arriving, the girls dashed out of the car, their giggles echoing through the air as they ran toward the playground. Thomas watched with a smile, feeling a warmth in his heart as he witnessed their joy. He took a moment to appreciate the transformation his life had undergone since adopting them. These girls were not just children in his care, they were his family. As the afternoon wore on, Thomas sat on a nearby bench, enjoying the sight of his daughters playing together. However, his peace was soon interrupted by the arrival of a group of local boys who began to taunt Tiana, Zoe, and Amira. "Look at them! What's a white dude doing with all those black kids?" one of the boys shouted, his voice dripping with contempt. The laughter of the boys stung, and Thomas felt a surge of anger rise within him. He had known this moment might come, but witnessing it firsthand was different. He quickly approached the group, determined to protect his daughters from the hurtful words. "Hey!" Thomas called out, his voice firm. "That's not okay. They're my daughters, and I won't tolerate any disrespect." The boys sneered, their bravado faltering slightly at the sight of the determined father. Tiana, however, stood tall, her expression a mix of defiance and hurt. "Don't worry about it, Dad," she said, trying to brush it off, but Thomas could see the pain in her eyes. After the boys left, Thomas gathered his daughters around him. "I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. I wish I could protect you from all the negativity out there." Tiana shook her head, fighting back tears. "It's not your fault, Dad, but it hurts, you know? Sometimes I feel like I don't belong anywhere." Thomas knelt down to meet her gaze. "You belong here with me. We're a family, and nothing will change that. I promise to always stand by you." Amira, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "It's hard sometimes. I get it, Tiana. But we have to stick together, right? We're all we've got." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Thomas felt a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that he not only had to provide love and support, but also teach his daughters to stand strong against prejudice and discrimination. That evening, as they returned home, he made a decision. They would start a family tradition of having regular family meetings to discuss their feelings and experiences. A week later, they gathered around the dining table for their first meeting. The air was filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Okay, everyone," Thomas began, his voice steady but warm. "I thought it would be good for us to talk about how we're feeling. It's important that we support each other, especially when things get tough." Jasmine, the youngest, piped up. "Like when I get scared at night?" "Exactly," Thomas replied, smiling gently. "And also about things that happen during the day, like what happened at the park. We can share our thoughts and help each other feel better." The girls began to open up, sharing their experiences at school, the challenges they faced, and their feelings about being in a multiracial family. Amira shared her frustrations about the racial stereotypes she encountered, while Zoe talked about how she felt pressure to excel academically to prove herself. Tiana expressed her fears about fitting in and being accepted. "I just wish people would see me for who I am," Tiana said, her voice quivering, not just as the girl who has a white dad. Thomas listened intently, his heart heavy with empathy. "You are all unique individuals, and your worth is not determined by anyone else's opinion. I love each of you for who you are, and I want you to embrace your identity, no matter what anyone says." As the conversation continued, Thomas noticed a shift in the atmosphere. The girls began to lean on each other, offering words of encouragement and support. They created a safe space where they could express their feelings without judgment. Over the next few weeks, they practiced this new tradition. It became a time for laughter, sharing, and sometimes tears, but it also strengthened the bond between Thomas and his daughters. They learned to celebrate their differences while embracing their love as a family. However, not all was smooth sailing. One afternoon, after a particularly difficult day at school, Tiana came home visibly upset. She stormed into the house, slamming the door behind her. "Tiana, what's wrong?" Thomas asked, concern etched on his face. "I'm done. I'm so tired of feeling like I don't belong. I don't want to be part of this family anymore," she shouted, her voice breaking with frustration. Thomas felt a sharp pain in his chest as he listened to his daughter's words. He knew this was a cry for help, but how could he reach her? "Let's talk about it," he urged, keeping his tone calm. "I'm here for you. You can tell me anything." But Tiana shook her head, retreating to her room. That night, Thomas sat on the edge of her bed, unsure of how to bridge the distance between them. "Tiana, I know you're hurting, but shutting me out won't help. I want to understand what you're feeling." For a moment, there was silence. Then Tiana whispered, "I just want to be normal. I don't want to be the only one who looks different." Thomas sighed deeply, knowing that her feelings stemmed from a place of vulnerability. "Tiana, being different is what makes you special. You have a beautiful culture and history that are part of who you are. I may not understand everything you're going through, but I'm here to support you." With a deep breath, Tiana began to open up. "I feel like I'm always trying to prove myself, to show everyone that I'm worth something. It's exhausting." As they talked late into the night, Thomas realized that this was not just a battle against the world outside. It was about helping Tiana and the other girls find strength in their identities. He promised her that they would face these challenges together, as a family. As the days passed, Thomas continued to work on building a safe and loving environment for his daughters. He attended workshops on cultural competency and parenting, determined to equip himself with the tools needed to guide them. He encouraged the girls to explore their heritage, instilling a sense of pride in their backgrounds. One afternoon, as they prepared for their weekly family meeting, Thomas surprised the girls by announcing that he had arranged for them to visit a local museum that focused on African American history. "I thought we could all learn more about our culture together," he said, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. The girls were thrilled, and the day spent exploring the museum was filled with discovery and connection. They marveled at the stories of resilience and triumph, finding inspiration in the lives of those who had come before them. As they left the museum, Thomas felt a sense of hope for the future. He knew there would be challenges ahead, but he also knew that together they would navigate them as a family, strong, united, and unyielding. As autumn settled over Greenbrook, the leaves transformed into a kaleidoscope of red, orange, and yellow, mirroring the vibrant lives of Thomas and his daughters. With each passing day, the bond between them grew stronger, yet Thomas understood that navigating their cultural identities would be an ongoing journey. One Saturday morning, Thomas gathered his daughters for breakfast, a spread of pancakes, fresh fruit, and syrup ready on the table. The aroma filled the air, setting a cheerful tone for the day. "Today we have something special planned," Thomas announced, a smile spreading across his face. "We're going to a cultural gathering at the local community center. It's an event where families from different backgrounds come together to celebrate their cultures. There will be music, food, and activities. I think it will be a great way for us to learn more about your heritage." The girls exchanged excited glances, especially Amira, who had taken an interest in connecting with their cultural roots. "That sounds amazing, Dad. I can't wait," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. As they made their way to the community center, the car was filled with chatter about what they might see and learn. Tiana, still grappling with her feelings of belonging, was quieter than usual, lost in thought. Once they arrived, the vibrant sounds of laughter and music greeted them. Families of all backgrounds mingled, sharing stories and experiences. Colorful banners adorned the walls, each representing a different culture. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, and for a moment, Thomas felt a sense of belonging wash over him. The event kicked off with a welcome speech from the community leader, a wise woman named Mother Henrietta, who had become a pillar of support for Thomas and his daughters. She spoke passionately about the importance of understanding one's heritage and the strength it brings to families. As the activities began, Thomas encouraged his daughters to explore different booths. Amira gravitated towards a table showcasing traditional African dance, where she watched in awe as dancers adorned in bright fabrics twirled and moved gracefully. "Can we try it, Dad?" Amira asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Absolutely," Thomas replied, happy to see her enthusiasm. They joined in, laughing and clumsily attempting to mimic the dancers. It was a joyful experience, one that brought them all closer together, and the energy was contagious. Meanwhile, Simone discovered a painting workshop where children were encouraged to express their identities through art. She grabbed a brush, her creativity flowing as she painted vibrant colors on a canvas, reflecting her thoughts and feelings about their family. "Look, Dad, this is us!" she shouted, beaming with pride as she showcased her work. A beautiful depiction of 6 figures holding hands against a backdrop of multicolored hearts. Thomas marveled at her talent and creativity. "That's incredible, Simone. You've captured our love perfectly," he praised, feeling a swell of pride in his heart. As the day progressed, they wandered through various booths, learning about different traditions, music styles, and cuisines from around the world. Each new experience deepened their appreciation for cultural diversity. However, as the sun began to set and the event wound down, Tiana lingered at the edge of the gathering, her expression somber. Thomas noticed her distance and approached her gently. "What's on your mind, Tiana?" he asked softly. I feel like I don't belong anywhere," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Everyone here seems so connected to their culture, and I feel lost." Kneeling beside her, Thomas offered his understanding. "I know it's tough, sweetheart, but belonging isn't just about fitting into a specific culture. It's about the love we share as a family. You're part of this family, and your identity is shaped by all of us." Tiana looked up at her father, her eyes reflecting both sadness and hope. But I want to be proud of who I am, Dad. I want to feel like I belong to something. Then let's explore that together, Thomas suggested, a determined look in his eyes. We can learn more about our heritage, our history, and what it means to be a family. I promise we'll figure it out together. That evening, as they drove home, Thomas felt a renewed commitment to help his daughters navigate their identities. He knew it was essential for them to connect with their roots, not just as individuals, but as a family. Over the following weeks, Thomas organized family outings to historical sites, cultural festivals, and community events that celebrated diversity. They immersed themselves in literature and music from various backgrounds, encouraging discussions about what they learned. One night, while gathering around the dining table, Thomas presented a new idea. How about we each choose a cultural tradition or story that resonates with us? We can learn about it and share it with each other. It'll be a way to celebrate who we are and where we come from. The girls eagerly agreed, and soon they were diving into research, exploring everything from traditional recipes to folk tales that celebrated their heritage. Amira chose to learn about African storytelling, while Simone decided to focus on art and its historical significance within their culture. Tiana, with a growing sense of curiosity, wanted to delve into the history of African American civil rights leaders, inspired by the strength and resilience they exhibited. As they shared their discoveries during family meetings, Thomas watched with pride as his daughters began to embrace their identities. They learned to appreciate their unique backgrounds while also celebrating their shared love for one another. Through these discussions, Tiana began to open up about her feelings, expressing how the stories they shared helped her feel more connected to her roots. It was a breakthrough moment for her, and Thomas felt a surge of joy at witnessing her growth. By the time winter arrived, the Miller family had built a strong foundation of understanding and appreciation for each other's identities. Their experiences had not only deepened their bonds, but also empowered each daughter to embrace her uniqueness. As they gathered around the fireplace one chilly evening, the warmth of the flames reflecting in their eyes, Thomas realized that they were not just surviving. They were thriving as a family, creating a legacy of love, acceptance, and resilience that would carry them forward. As the winter months set in over Greenbrook, the air turned crisp, and the world outside transformed into a winter wonderland. However, within the walls of the Miller home, a different kind of change was brewing. The closeness and camaraderie built over the past months were tested as the girls entered their teenage years, and new challenges emerged. Tiana, now 16, began to exhibit signs of frustration and rebellion. Once a vibrant and enthusiastic daughter, she had become withdrawn and distant. Thomas noticed that she often retreated to her room after school, leaving the once lively household quiet and tense. It worried him. But he hesitated to confront her directly, fearing it might push her further away. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Thomas sensed the underlying tension. The chatter that usually filled the table was reduced to brief responses and nervous glances. He took a deep breath, hoping to encourage some openness. "Let's talk about our week," Thomas began, trying to break the silence. "Amira, how was your school project on African folklore?" Amira brightened and launched into her presentation, recounting her favorite stories and the lessons learned. Simone followed suit, sharing her excitement about an art competition she was entering. As they spoke, Thomas glanced at Tiana, who sat slumped in her chair, picking at her food. "Tiana, what about you? Is everything okay at school?" he asked gently. She looked up, annoyance flashing in her eyes. "Fine," she snapped, clearly irritated. "It's just school. You wouldn't understand." Thomas felt a pang in his heart. "I may not understand everything, but I want to help. If there's something bothering you, I don't need your help, Dad. You don't know what it's like to be me," she exclaimed, her frustration boiling over. Silence fell across the table, the other girls exchanging uneasy glances. Thomas took a moment to gather his thoughts, then replied softly, "You're right. I can't know exactly what you're feeling, but I do want to understand, Tiana. Please, talk to me." With that, Tiana stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Thomas felt a sense of helplessness wash over him, the fear of losing her clawing at his chest. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Thomas found himself sitting on the edge of Tiana's door, contemplating how to bridge the growing gap between them. He could hear her muffled sobs through the door, and his heart ached for her. The next day, Thomas made a decision. He reached out to the local youth center and arranged for Tiana to participate in a mentorship program aimed at helping teenagers navigate their emotions and struggles. He believed that connecting her with someone who had faced similar challenges might provide the support she needed. When he shared the plan with the girls at dinner that evening, Amira and Simone were supportive, but Tiana's reaction was less than enthusiastic. "I don't need a mentor," she protested, crossing her arms defiantly. "You might find it helpful," Thomas replied calmly. "Sometimes talking to someone who understands can make a difference." "Like you do?" Tiana shot back, frustration lacing her words. "You don't get it. You're not like me." The tension in the room escalated, and Thomas struggled to maintain his composure. "I know I'm not," he said softly, "but I care about you, Tiana. I want you to feel supported. I want you to know that it's okay to feel what you're feeling." Tiana's expression softened slightly, but her resistance remained. "I just want to be normal, Dad. I don't want to stand out or feel different. I hate feeling like I'm some sort of project for you." Thomas's heart broke a little more at her words. He knew that she was grappling with her identity and the external pressures of being a black girl in a predominantly white community. "I'm not trying to make you a project," he said earnestly. "I'm just trying to be the father you deserve. I want to support you in finding your way." After a long pause, Tiana sighed, her anger dissipating. "Fine, I'll give it a try, but I'm not promising anything." Thomas felt a rush of relief. "That's all I ask, Tiana. Let's take it one step at a time." As weeks passed, Tiana reluctantly attended the mentorship sessions. She met with a kind woman named Lisa, who was well-versed in the challenges faced by young people navigating cultural identities. With each session, Tiana began to open up about her feelings, her fears, and the pressures she faced. Meanwhile, the other girls were also experiencing their own challenges. Simone faced a tough critique of her artwork at the competition, and Amira struggled to keep up with her demanding schoolwork while managing a part-time job. Thomas found himself juggling the needs of each daughter, often feeling overwhelmed but determined to support them all. One evening, as he sat with Tiana after her mentorship session, he noticed a change in her demeanor. "Dad, I think I'm starting to understand myself a little better," she admitted, her voice softer than usual. "That's wonderful to hear," he said, his heart swelling with pride. "What do you mean?" "I realize that being different isn't a bad thing. It just means I have a unique perspective," she said thoughtfully. "I think I was trying too hard to fit in, but now I want to embrace who I am." Thomas felt a rush of gratitude for Lisa's support and for Tiana's growing self-awareness. "That's a beautiful realization, Tiana. I'm proud of you for taking those steps." As the weeks turned into months, the family faced more ups and downs, but they also celebrated each milestone, big and small. Tiana's newfound confidence began to influence the household positively. She started to help her sisters with their own struggles, offering encouragement and sharing her experiences. One afternoon, Thomas surprised the girls by organizing a family outing to a local basketball game, knowing how much Tiana loved the sport. As they cheered for their team, Thomas marveled at how far they had come. Laughter filled the air, and for the first time in a while, he felt a sense of peace settle over them. However, just as things seemed to be stabilizing, an unexpected incident at school tested the family's resilience once again. Tiana came home one day visibly upset, her eyes brimming with tears. Thomas immediately sensed something was wrong. "What happened, Tiana?" "They called me names again. It was just a few kids, but it hurt," she said, her voice trembling. "They said I didn't belong on the team and that I was only there because of my skin color." Thomas felt a surge of anger, but he fought to remain calm for Tiana's sake. "I'm so sorry you had to experience that. You are so much more than what they say," he said firmly. "You're an amazing athlete, and you belong there. But it's not just about sports. It's everything, Dad. I feel like I'm constantly fighting to prove myself," she replied, frustration pouring out. "I know it feels that way," Thomas said softly, kneeling beside her. "But remember, you have a whole family that believes in you. You have a community that cares for you." Tiana looked at her father, and for a moment, the weight of the world seemed to lift just a little. "Thanks, Dad. I just wish it was easier." "Me too, sweetheart. But we will face this together. Let's talk about how we can address this with your coach or the school." As they planned their next steps, Thomas felt a renewed sense of purpose. He understood that their journey wasn't just about individual growth. It was about navigating the challenges that came with their unique identities together as a family. As spring blossomed over Greenbrook, the town transformed into a vibrant palette of colors. Flowers bloomed, trees regained their leaves, and the air carried a freshness that hinted at renewal. But within the Miller household, another kind of change was looming, one that would test the family's strength in unforeseen ways. Thomas had been feeling unusually fatigued for weeks, a sense of exhaustion that lingered even after restful nights. He brushed it off as stress, attributing it to the whirlwind of raising 6 daughters while managing his duties as a police officer. However, the persistent cough that crept into his life began to raise alarm bells. One particularly warm Saturday, Thomas found himself sitting on the porch with Tiana, who was enthusiastically sharing her latest basketball drills. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness washed over him, making the world spin. He gripped the armrest of the chair, trying to steady himself, but the room blurred. "Dad, are you okay?" Tiana's voice broke through the haze. "I'm fine, sweetheart," Thomas managed to reply. But inside, he felt anything but fine. As days passed, Thomas's condition only worsened. He started experiencing shortness of breath, and the cough developed into something more severe. One evening, after a particularly difficult day at work, he found himself unable to catch his breath after climbing the stairs. Panic set in, and he realized he could no longer ignore the warning signs. After some coaxing from Amira and the rest of the girls, Thomas reluctantly agreed to see a doctor. The appointment felt like a heavy cloud hanging over them, each daughter fidgeting with worry as they waited in the sterile examination room. The doctor's expression turned serious as he reviewed Thomas's symptoms and performed various tests. Finally, the doctor entered with a grave look on his face. "Mr. Miller, I'm afraid we have some serious news. The tests show signs of advanced lung cancer." A silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating. Thomas felt the weight of the diagnosis crash over him like a tidal wave. He glanced at his daughters, their faces painted with shock and fear. "I'm sorry, but we need to discuss treatment options," the doctor continued, outlining a plan that included chemotherapy and radiation. Each word felt like a nail being driven deeper into Thomas's heart. As they left the doctor's office, the air felt thick with uncertainty. Thomas sensed the gravity of what lay ahead, and the fear of potentially leaving his daughters without a father was a heavy burden he carried. Once home, Thomas sat the girls down, his heart racing as he prepared to share the devastating news. He could see the concern etched on their faces, and it made his heart ache more than ever. "Girls," he began, his voice shaking slightly, "I have something important to tell you. The doctor diagnosed me with lung cancer." Amira gasped, and Tiana's eyes widened in disbelief. "What does that mean, Dad?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It means I'll need to undergo treatment, and it's going to be a tough journey," Thomas replied, trying to maintain a brave facade. "But I want you all to know that I'm going to fight this. I'm not going anywhere." The room was filled with a thick silence as his daughters processed the news. Finally, Simone spoke up, her voice filled with determination. "We're going to be here for you, Dad. You're not in this alone." As the days turned into weeks, the reality of Thomas's illness settled over the family like a heavy fog. The girls took turns accompanying him to treatments, rallying around him with unwavering support. Each daughter expressed their care in unique ways. Amira coordinated a meal schedule, ensuring that Thomas received nutritious meals while he recovered. Tiana began researching ways to maintain a healthy lifestyle, determined to support her father through his fight. Simone utilized her artistic talents, creating motivational posters filled with encouraging quotes that adorned the walls of Thomas's recovery space. Zoe and Layla organized fun family activities to keep spirits high, from movie nights to game tournaments, and even invited friends to help Thomas feel more connected to the outside world. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of treatment, Thomas sat on the porch, fatigue weighing heavily on his shoulders. Tiana joined him, a bowl of popcorn in hand. "Hey, Dad, want to watch a movie with us?" she asked, her voice softening. "I'd love that, Tiana," he replied, a faint smile crossing his face. As they settled in for a family movie night, Thomas felt the warmth of their presence wrap around him like a comforting blanket. Laughter erupted as they watched a comedy, the the sound of joy echoing against the backdrop of their challenges. Through it all, Thomas felt a profound sense of gratitude for his daughters. Their strength and resilience became a beacon of hope for him. In his darkest moments, they reminded him of the purpose he had found in their love. However, as he navigated treatment, Thomas faced physical and emotional battles that sometimes felt insurmountable. The side effects of chemotherapy left him weak and drained, and he struggled with feelings of inadequacy as he tried to maintain his role as a father. One particularly difficult day, after returning from treatment, Thomas slumped onto the couch, feeling utterly defeated. Tiana, noticing her father's distress, approached him hesitantly. "Dad, it's okay to not be okay," she said gently, sitting beside him. "We're in this together, remember?" Her words struck a chord within him. He had always been the protector, the one who held everything together. But now, in his vulnerability, he realized that letting his daughters in on his struggles was also a part of being a father. "Thank you, Tiana," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm trying to be strong for all of you, but it's hard." "I know," she said softly. "But you've always taught us to be honest about our feelings. We want to support you, Dad. It's okay to lean on us." In that moment, Thomas understood that vulnerability was not a sign of weakness, but rather a testament to the strength of their bond. He pulled Tiana into a hug, feeling the warmth of her love surround him. As the weeks rolled on, the family faced new challenges, but they also celebrated small victories. Thomas slowly regained his strength. The treatments began to show promise, and he felt more like himself again. In the quiet moments spent together, Thomas shared stories from his past with the girls, teaching them lessons learned through his life experiences. They sat around the dinner table, sharing laughter and support, creating a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. It became evident that this experience was reshaping their family dynamic in powerful ways. The girls learned the importance of compassion and support, and Thomas discovered the depth of their love. They were all growing together, facing the world as a united front, stronger than they had ever been. As Thomas prepared for another treatment, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wanted to not only fight for himself, but for his daughters, for the future they were building together. "I'll get through this," he vowed silently, fueled by the love that surrounded him. "For my girls." The spring air in Greenbrook was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the soft hum of bees buzzing around the garden. Thomas, now on the mend, found solace in the simple joys of life. Each day brought him closer to regaining his strength, and he began to see the world through a new lens, one colored by gratitude and love for his daughters. As he recovered, the bond between Thomas and his daughters deepened. They shared evenings filled with laughter, game nights that turned into friendly competitions, and long talks that bridged any gaps left by his illness. The girls had not only stepped up to support him during his treatment, but they also transformed their shared moments into a celebration of family resilience. One afternoon, as they gathered around the dining table for dinner, Amira proposed an idea that had been brewing in her mind. "Dad, I've been thinking a lot about how we can give back to the community that has supported us through everything," she began, her voice full of enthusiasm. "What if we started a foundation in your name? We could help kids who are in situations similar to what we went through." The table fell silent as the sisters exchanged glances, their eyes lighting up with excitement at the idea. Thomas looked at Amira, a mix of pride and surprise washing over him. "You really think we could do that?" he asked, his heart swelling at the thought. "Absolutely," Layla chimed in. "We could help foster children find homes, offer support to families adopting, and even create programs to help them integrate into the community. We have the experience, and we can inspire others." The idea quickly gained momentum as they discussed how they could structure the foundation. Thomas felt an overwhelming sense of purpose ignite within him. This was a chance to honor not just his journey, but also the journeys of the girls who had changed his life. In the following weeks, they worked tirelessly to lay the groundwork for the Thomas Miller Foundation. Each sister contributed her unique skills to the project. Amira used her background in social work to draft the foundation's mission statement. Tiana tapped into her connections from her basketball community to gain support and sponsorships. Simone designed the logo and promotional materials, while Zoe wrote heartfelt narratives about their family's story to share with potential donors. However, Not all the responses were as enthusiastic as they had hoped. Some in the community voiced skepticism, questioning whether a family like theirs could truly understand the complexities of fostering and adoption. Thomas and the girls faced these criticisms head-on, determined to prove the doubters wrong. One evening, they held an information session at the local community center to present their foundation's mission and vision. The room was filled with a mixture of curious residents and staunch critics. As Thomas took the podium, he felt a mix of nerves and excitement. "Thank you all for being here," he began, his voice steady. "I want to share our story, not just mine, but the story of 6 incredible girls who showed me what love and family really mean." He paused, looking out at the faces in the crowd. "We're here to start a conversation about hope, resilience, and the importance of community." As he spoke about the foundation's goals, highlighting the need for support systems for children in foster care, he could see the shift in some audience members' expressions. The heartfelt narratives woven through their family's journey began to resonate. After his speech, Amira took the stage to share her experiences working with foster children and the challenges they faced. "Every child deserves a chance at a loving home," she said passionately. "We want to be the bridge that connects them with families who can give them that chance." The evening concluded with a Kwanda session, and Thomas felt a wave of encouragement as some community members stepped forward, eager to get involved. They signed up to volunteer, to donate, and to help spread the word. It became clear that their shared vision was taking root. As the foundation began to gain traction, Thomas's health continued to improve. He felt a renewed sense of purpose driving him forward. However, with every success, there was a lingering worry about the stress his daughters were experiencing. They were pouring their hearts into the foundation while juggling their own lives, and Thomas wanted to ensure they weren't sacrificing their well-being in the process. One evening, as they sat in the living room after a long day of work on the foundation, Thomas brought up his concerns. "Girls, I want to talk about how you're feeling with everything that's going on," he began, his voice gentle but firm. "I know this foundation is important to you, but I don't want you to lose sight of yourselves in the process." Tiana spoke up first. "Dad, we're doing this because we believe in it. Yes, it's a lot, but we're all in this together. You've shown us how to face challenges head-on, and we're committed to this mission." Simone nodded in agreement. "We're a team, and we're learning so much along the way, but we appreciate your concern, really." Feeling reassured, Thomas decided to plan a weekend getaway for the family, something to remind them of the importance of balancing work and play. He proposed a camping trip to the nearby state park, a place they had visited often in the past. The girls lit up at the idea, their excitement palpable as they started packing. As they set off that Friday evening, the car was filled with laughter, music, and the unmistakable joy of being together. Upon arrival at the campsite, they unloaded their gear and quickly set up tents under the twinkling stars. The night was spent around the campfire, sharing stories, roasting marshmallows, and relishing the beauty of nature surrounding them. In that moment, Thomas felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over him. He realized that despite the challenges they faced, the love they shared was the greatest gift of all. In the days that followed, the family connected on a deeper level, taking hikes, sharing their thoughts, and creating memories that would last a lifetime. Thomas observed how the girls rallied around each other, supporting one another in ways that made his heart swell with pride. When they returned home, the energy of the trip invigorated them all. They approached their work with renewed vigor, committed to making the Thomas Miller Foundation a beacon of hope for children in need. As the weeks rolled into months, the foundation continued to flourish, driven by the passion and dedication of Thomas and his daughters. Each successful event brought new opportunities, and as they navigated the complexities of running a nonprofit, they learned more about the impact they could have on the community. But it was during one particular event, a fundraiser at the community center, that Thomas felt a powerful shift. As the night unfolded, he saw how their hard work was transforming lives, how their family's love had blossomed into something that inspired others. With each new face he met that night, Thomas was reminded of why they had started this journey. He was filled with a sense of pride, not only for what they had accomplished, but for the remarkable women his daughters had become. As the event came to a close, Thomas took a moment to reflect on how far they had come. He understood that their family was not just shaped by blood, but by their commitment to one another and their willingness to love without boundaries. Now, standing alongside his daughters, he felt the profound truth of their journey sink deep into his heart. They had built a legacy together, one that would resonate far beyond their own lives, and it was just the beginning. The summer sun cast a warm glow over Greenbrook as the town buzzed with excitement for the upcoming wedding of Tiana and her partner Maya. The couple had been planning this day for months, and the Harris family was fully involved in every detail, determined to make it a celebration of love and family. Tiana had been a source of pride for Thomas, not just as a daughter, but as a strong woman who had overcome so much and now embraced a future filled with hope and joy. As the day approached, the family found themselves in the midst of wedding preparations. Thomas watched with a smile as his daughters flitted about the house, giggling and brainstorming ideas for the wedding decorations. Amira took charge of organizing the guest list, while Simone designed the invitations with her artistic flair. Layla was busy planning the menu, ensuring that every dish reflected the love and heritage of both Tiana and Maya. Amidst the hustle and bustle, Jasmine, the youngest, couldn't contain her excitement. "Dad, can I help with the flowers?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Thomas chuckled, ruffling her hair affectionately. "Of course, sweetheart. You have a great eye for beauty." As the family gathered for a dinner to discuss the final details, the atmosphere was filled with laughter and anticipation. "This is going to be the best day ever," Zoe exclaimed, raising her glass for a toast. To Tiana and Maya. Everyone echoed her sentiment, their hearts swelling with love for the couple. As Thomas looked around the table at his daughters, he felt a sense of fulfillment. They had not only supported each other through life's challenges, but had also created a family grounded in love and acceptance. As the wedding day arrived, the Harris home was transformed into a beautiful venue, adorned with flowers, twinkling lights, and photographs that chronicled Tiana and Maya's journey together. Friends, family, and members of the community gathered to witness the union, filling the air with joy and excitement. Thomas stood at the altar, his heart racing with emotion. He glanced at Tiana, radiant in her wedding dress, and felt an overwhelming sense of pride. She had grown from a rebellious girl into a remarkable woman, ready to embark on a new chapter of her life. Maya stood beside her, equally beautiful, her smile brightening the entire space. As the ceremony began, Thomas couldn't help but reflect on how far they had all come. He remembered the struggles, the heartaches, and the triumphs that had shaped their family. Now, standing in front of their loved ones, Tiana and Maya exchanged vows that spoke of love, commitment, and the shared dreams for a future together. "Today, I promise to love you, support you, and cherish you for the rest of my life," Tiana declared, her voice steady and full of emotion. "I promise to stand by your side through every challenge, to celebrate every joy, and to create a family filled with love and acceptance." Maya's voice was equally resolute as she replied, "I promise to be your partner in all things, to honor and respect you, and to build a life together that reflects our love and our values. Together, we will create a home filled with laughter, warmth, and understanding." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause, the sound echoing through the town. Thomas felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, overwhelmed by the love and support surrounding them. It was a moment he would treasure forever, a beautiful testament to the power of love. After the ceremony, the reception was a joyful celebration filled with dancing, laughter, and heartfelt toasts. Thomas watched as his daughters shared stories and memories, each one highlighting their unique personalities and the bonds they had forged through their experiences. As the night wore on, Thomas found himself sitting at a table with his daughters, reflecting on the day. "You know," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "today is not just about Tiana and Maya. It's about all of us and the family we've built together. Each of you has played a vital role in making this day special." The girls exchanged knowing smiles, their hearts full of love for their father. "We couldn't have done it without you, Dad," Amira replied. "You've taught us what it means to love unconditionally." In that moment, Thomas realized that their journey was far from over. With Tiana and Maya embarking on their own path, the next generation of the Harris family was beginning to take shape. It was a future filled with possibilities, and Thomas felt a renewed sense of purpose. As they danced under the stars, surrounded by the love of family and friends, Thomas knew that the values he had instilled in his daughters would continue to guide them as they navigated life's challenges. He could envision a future where their family legacy would carry on, fostering love, acceptance, and resilience in those who followed. And as the evening came to a close, Thomas looked around at the faces of his daughters and felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. He understood that the love they had cultivated would be the foundation for future generations, a love that transcended color, background, and circumstance. "Here's to family," he raised his glass, his voice filled with conviction. "May our love continue to grow and inspire those around us." The sisters raised their glasses, echoing their father's sentiment. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by the unbreakable bond of love. As the sun set over Greenbrook, casting a warm glow over the town, Thomas Harris found himself reflecting on the remarkable journey he had taken with his daughters. It had been several months since Tiana and Maya's wedding, and life in the Harris household had settled into a rhythm that felt both comforting and exciting. The wedding had not only united Tiana and Maya, but had also brought the entire family closer together, strengthening the bonds that had formed through love and resilience. Now, as he sat in his cozy study, Thomas stared at the blank pages of his notebook, contemplating the story he was about to share with the world. He had decided to write a book about their journey, a chronicle of love, challenges, and the unwavering commitment to family that had defined their lives. The title he had chosen was Love Beyond Color, a reflection of the experiences they had navigated together and the lessons they had learned along the way. Every morning, Thomas would sit down with his coffee and allow his memories to flow onto the pages. He wrote about the first day he had brought his daughters home, the struggles they faced in blending their lives, and the moments of joy that made every challenge worthwhile. He poured his heart into the book, recalling the laughter and tears that had shaped their family. His daughters supported him through the writing process, often offering their insights and sharing their perspectives. One evening, they gathered around the dinner table, each of them eager to contribute their thoughts. "Dad, your story is inspiring," Amira said, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "It's important for others to see how love can transform lives." "Yeah," chimed in Zoe. "You should include the funny moments, too, like when you tried to braid Jasmine's hair and it ended up looking like a bird's nest." Laughter erupted around the table, and Thomas couldn't help but smile at the joy his daughters brought into his life. As the weeks passed, the manuscript began to take shape. Thomas incorporated stories of each of his daughters, highlighting their individual journeys and the way they had come together as a family. He wrote about Simone's artistic achievements, Layla's advocacy work, and Tiana's growth into a strong woman who now inspired others. He included the challenges they faced, the prejudices they encountered, and the love that had helped them overcome every obstacle. One afternoon, as Thomas reviewed his drafts, a knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. It was Jasmine, holding a small envelope with a proud smile on her face. "Dad, look! I got an award for my poem at school," she exclaimed, her excitement infectious. "That's amazing, sweetheart," Thomas replied, pulling her into a warm embrace. "I'm so proud of you." As they celebrated her accomplishment, Thomas realized that their story was not just his own. It was a tapestry woven from the threads of each of their lives, rich with experiences that defined who they were as a family. With the manuscript nearing completion, Thomas felt a sense of urgency to share their journey with the world. He reached out to a publishing agent, eager to get their story into print. "This is not just a book, it's a message," he told the agent over coffee one afternoon. "I want to inspire families to embrace love in all its forms and to understand that family is about choice, not blood." The agent nodded, clearly impressed. "I believe this story can resonate with many people. We need more stories like yours out there," she said. Her enthusiasm mirrored Thomas's own. As they discussed the next steps, Thomas felt a swell of hope. He envisioned their story helping others find acceptance and understanding in a world that often seemed divided. Finally, the day came when the book was ready for publication. Thomas stood in front of his daughters, a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling within him. "Today marks a new beginning for our family," he announced, holding the finished copy of Love Beyond Color. "It's not just about my journey, it's about all of us and the legacy we're creating together." The family gathered for a launch party at the local community center, a place that had become a second home to them. Friends, neighbors, and community members filled the room, creating an atmosphere of love and support. Thomas took a deep breath as he prepared to speak, looking out at the faces of those who had cheered them on through thick and thin. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This book represents years of love, growth, and the beautiful chaos of family life. It tells the story of 6 girls who found a father in me and a father who found purpose in them." The audience listened intently, hanging on to every word as Thomas shared snippets from the book, moments of laughter, tears, and triumph that had defined their lives together. He spoke of the challenges they faced and the strength they drew from one another, leaving the audience moved and inspired. As he concluded his speech, he felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This book is a testament to the idea that love knows no boundaries. It is a reminder that family can look different from what society expects, but is no less real or profound. I hope that by sharing our story, we can encourage others to embrace love in all its forms. After the speech, the room erupted in applause, and Thomas was enveloped in hugs from his daughters. "You did it, Dad," Tiana said, tears of joy in her eyes. "You told our story beautifully." In the weeks that followed, the book gained attention, leading to interviews and speaking engagements where Thomas shared their story with even wider audiences. He was humbled by the outpouring of support and the way their journey resonated with people from all walks of life. One evening, after a successful event, Thomas returned home feeling accomplished but also reflective. He sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset as memories of his daughters flooded back to him. They were no longer the scared little girls he had taken in. They had blossomed into remarkable women, each carving their own path while carrying forward the values he had instilled in them. As he looked up at the stars twinkling in the night sky, he made a silent promise to continue sharing their story. He wanted to ensure that the lessons of love, resilience, and acceptance would inspire future generations. With a heart full of gratitude, Thomas understood that the legacy of love he had created would endure, shaping not only his daughters' futures, but also the lives of countless others who found hope in their journey. Thank you for joining me for this story. I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel to stay updated on the heartfelt stories I'm passionate about sharing. Your support means the world to me and motivates me to keep creating. I'm truly grateful to have you on this journey with me.